Hello, baby.
Oh, you're turning me on.
Hi, this is Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, getting back to shooting some episodes of Right Angle this week after a week where I was hopped up on drugs, mostly steroids and antibiotics because of a bout of laryngitis. I'm grateful for all the people who have extended prayers and well wishes and notes of concern. Thank you so much for that. We are going right back at it this week with Bill himself actually hosting the members only episode. And so, Bill, that means you get first crack at stealing all the good topics. So what would you like to talk about this week?
Sim salabim. The actual story's not really very novel, but I did think we would take an interesting approach to it. I read on our trusty Instapundit a story about school board officials in Santa Barbara declining to say the Pledge of Allegiance because it was based on white supremacy and nationalism. Well, here's the thing. I actually know the words to the Pledge of Allegiance, and I can't find a single reference to either one of those two things in there. So actually, what I thought we would do is to parse the Pledge of Allegiance.
That'll be fun.
Sentence by sentence, or word by word, or line by line, however we want to do it, and see how it is almost precisely the opposite of what this professor of professoring in Santa Barbara, California, has to say. So it's just kind of a...
So this is a university professor who managed to get him or herself onto the school board? Is that the deal?
I don't think it's a professor. I think it's I have to double check the guy's credentials, but he's in Santa Barbara, and he's like the he's not the dean, but he's like top professor.
Okay.
Who when they have their mating rituals with their battle axes and their maces and things, trying to determine who top professor is. Yeah, he's the one who's got the biggest tail feathers. So that's what I'd like to do there. And then for members, I'd kind of like to elaborate on something we were talking about yesterday on Bill Whittle Now when we shot it, and that is the idea that this isn't a government anymore and hasn't been for a long time. This is now a series of publicity stunts and what do we do? It's not so much what can we change, so much as what does our personal outlook on life and our plan for living in a country that is in a post-government state, to govern
kind of
something.
How or even if you should give thought to the government?
Well, no, it's not that at all. It's like to govern something is to control it. That's essentially what governing something means. At the very least, to if not control it, then at least guide it. And when you have $2 trillion a year in mandatory spending that cannot be controlled, you're talking about essentially the rest of the world's economy, damn near it, that is being spent without any control over it whatsoever. Congress has gone several years under Obama without producing a budget, which is a requirement for the government. And as a result of this, the Navy's not getting ships repaired because they don't know that if the next continuing resolution in 6 months will be able to fund this or not. It's not working.
So because I sat in on the most recent episode of Bill Whittle Now, I get your premise, but I'm just saying, what's the direction of this? Like, what are we asking now? Is this the viewer looking at himself and saying, what should we think? How now should we behave? What?
Yes, exactly. How now should we behave? I think the case is pretty well made. We'll just start by making the case, and then we'll explore. What do law-abiding citizens do in a country where there is when the highest law officials are they're not corrupt in the traditional sense of the word. They're political and weaponization of the Justice Department and FBI and all the rest of it. I mean, I just think it'd be good to have a discussion about not how do we fix it? We know how to fix it. It's just not getting fixed.
So
what do we do?
I just want to know how to prepare myself for this episode. Should I be fondling a revolver, or is there going to be some...
This is the entire purpose of the episode, is should I be fondling a revolver? Should I be buying, cargo platters of
bouillon
baked beans.
cubes and
or should I just relax and not worry about it too much? I mean, I think that people, it's not even that they're, I don't think it's so much that their anxiety level is much higher than it used to be, but I think everybody understands that with this, well, you can't do the State of the Union from the floor of the Congress and all the rest of it. Let's just call this a post-political discussion, okay, on where we are in terms of what the reality of the world is out there for us in America right now.
Now, Steve, you were just going to solve this, right? Did you suggest?
I have a solution. I'm gonna save it for the actual segment. But I believe it or not, there's a technological solution to the problem where Washington can go full Venezuela and the rest of us can be left alone.
Hey, I like the sound of that. That's kind of where I'm going with this.
By the way, I think the president, this is not the topic of your show, but because this is not actually a show, I can say this. I think that the president really missed a great opportunity when Nancy Pelosi said that, well, I'm not going to let you come over. The government's shut down. You can't come over and give your State of the Union address. I think that President Trump ought to have gone all President Washington on her and just said, yeah, okay, I'll just send it over to you.
Yeah, as did Lincoln and everybody else.
Yeah.
Write it
really?
out, make
Okay.
it a couple pages, send it over for her to read. Yeah.
Well, go ahead then, Steve Green. You talk about the State of the Union.
It's my turn. Yeah, because I think this on again, off again, on again romance between Trump, well, no, not romance, whatever, anti-romance, I guess you could call it, between
It's a
Trump
bad
and
romance.
Pelosi.
They're like a divorced
Gaga
couple.
says.
They're like a
Yeah.
couple that's come out of a very nasty divorce.
Yes, one of those prolonged, contested, the attorneys got all the money in the end, divorces.
Right, and it's like, and the wife is like, no, I don't need this. I just know he loves it, so therefore I must have it.
Your
That's
father
right.
wants a wall. Now you know why I left him.
It's War of the Roses.
That's right.
On the Grand Washington scale. Well, grand as in large, not as in large and great. I think this brings up a great point because Washington, I think, delivered the first State of the Union addresses, 8, I suppose, in person, did he not? And he gave his great Washington speech. And it was Jefferson, who really detested public speaking and had a lousy voice and all the rest, who just wrote it down and had whatever page or assistant or whatever deliver it to the speaker. And that was that up until the guy who ruined everything, Woodrow Wilson, that idiot who loved the sound of his own voice. Yeah.
I have to double check on the Washington thing because my memory was that nobody came over and did an address. They just sent it because the Constitution said they have to make a report on the State of the Union, and so they wrote it up and had a courier carry it over. Now I could be wrong.
Yeah, and some of Lincoln's most memorable speeches were actually read by his secretary to the Congress. He didn't show up. He didn't need to. Here's part of my report on the State of the Union, and here's your report.
Here's what Grant drinks and all the rest. Yeah. So I think it's a good opportunity to talk about maybe the proper relationship between the executive and the Congress. And the sort of, and I'm not picking on Trump here. I'm not saying, ooh, Trump's the next Mussolini or anything, but this sort of imperial presidency that we've allowed to evolve over the last 100 years.
Well, in the era of this sort of, even if you just want to call it phony comity that existed, when a president would appear before Congress and was shown some deference, even if they disagreed with him, rather than staging a bunch of protests and wearing particular colors of clothing and positioning people next to you as a political statement, and
Reagan started that. I love him, but
all of that kind of stuff.
Guest,
it's I think as a producer of content, if I were President Trump, I'd look at this and go, you know what, this isn't really a great channel for me anymore. I've got a more direct channel. I don't have to put up with the sideshow of of the Democrats either stone-faced, sitting on their hands, or just doing inappropriate things. Wouldn't it have been great to hear President Trump go, hey, Nancy, there's no constitutional requirement for me to come to your house to give this address. This is, in fact, your big moment, and I think we're going to miss it this year. I'll just send you a letter.
And
read it. He could read it aloud at a packed stadium of 80,000 Trump fans in South Carolina, and then you'd get a reaction that would be very different from the one you would get in Washington.
Yeah, and the way the media will report it, Trump could spend an hour talking about his national program of Be Nice to Puppies, and the media would make it about how the Democrats reacted to it and how the air had been poisoned by Trump and all the rest.
Even at his eloquent best, President Trump is appearing before a joint session of Congress is never going to get even half of the Republican caucus to stand up and say, "Lock her up, lock her up." But this could happen. This could happen in an arena somewhere.
That has some merit to it.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, Steve.
So
this my topic suggestion or nominee for this week is what I'm tentatively dubbing, working title, Candidate Grande. And Candidate Grande is Howard Schultz, the former CEO, founder, or not really founder, but the guy who made Starbucks really what it is today, is toying with a presidential run. And according to him and his people, some of the polling that they have done have indicated that there are a lot of folks who don't want to go on the full leftward lurch of the progressive movement with the Democrats. And there are a lot of folks who don't kind of like the demeanor of the president. And there may be an opening for somebody to mount an independent run for the presidency where you're fiscally conservative, not in favor of confiscatory marginal tax rates on the wealthy and trying to rein in the state that's bankrupting us because of entitlements. And at the same time be sort of socially liberal like he is, I think. He says that the Democrats are going to hate him if he runs, and the Democrats are agreeing.
Well, we'd have to see how he's different than his policies for his chain, because Starbucks is one of the most left-leaning companies out there. Starbucks is the place that made a big fuss about banning weapons. Starbucks was the place that took Merry Christmas or Happy away, and there's been a lot of stuff that conservatives don't like about Starbucks.
They turn their bathrooms into homeless shelters just in the last
Well, I don't think
year
I don't think he's trying to reach certainly he's not trying to reach the Trump base, and I don't think he particularly thinks that his stronghold is going to be with conservatives who care about things like what color Starbucks Christmas cups are. I think he's really thinking that there's a large chunk of people in the middle who frankly are a lot softer on immigration than the Republican Party or Trump has been, and who are more concerned about the national debt and the annual deficit than Democrats are, and who don't want to go full Obama. And I think he thinks that he can carve out a middle. Now, of course, the Democrats are saying that the only thing that happens when you run like that is you guarantee the reelection of the incumbent.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice if the spoiler for once spoiled the Democrats' chances?
Instead of Ross Perot electing. So it's interesting because our former colleague Roger Simon over at PJ Media wrote
I was going to bring him up, yeah,
he said Howard Schultz could actually win, and this is kind of the way he maps this out. Now he's the only one saying that, and the only reason why anybody should listen to Roger Simon is he was like the second guy in the country to say Trump could win.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Anyway, I thought that would be not just around the personality of Howard Schultz and whether you think that guy has a chance, but is his premise correct? Are there enough people disenchanted with the president's ways and means, so to speak, and enough people who would reject the Democrats' overt lurch towards socialism that there might be a middle of independence taken from both parties?
Yeah, I'm going to try and remember this when we take the actual segment because I think it verges on clever. But the problem with Republicans is they get elected and they don't live up to their campaign promises. And the problem with Democrats is that they get elected and then they do live up to their campaign promises. And without endorsing Schultz in the slightest, that may very well leave him an opening.
Yeah, don't vote for Democrats. They'll do what they said.
That's right.
Okay.
Worst thing in the world.
That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking forward to getting back at it this week and recording some more episodes of Right Angle for you. We've already begun recording again episodes of Bill Whittle Now in the wake of my laryngitis-imposed silence for the last 9 days or so. And we're grateful for your patience through all of this. We are kind of a small shop here, and there's no Keyman insurance on me, so. And maybe that's just because Mr. Whittle has debated the idea of what a key man actually is.
You're my assassination insurance, the same way Joe Biden and Dan Quayle were.
That's right.
Be nice.
I'm just a heartbeat away from the leadership of this organization.
From the big seat, baby.
That's right.
From the lizard seat.
All right. Well, we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate your membership at BillWhittle.com. The folks who continue to contribute anywhere from $9.95 a month to $49.95 a month. There's some people actually, they're producing members of this organization, and not a few of them, who actually contribute about $550 a year because they like what is being said here and they want to see that spread around the world. We encourage you to become one of those folks by going to BillWhittle.com and clicking that Become a Member link. More good stuff to come in the very near future, and that's all I'll say about that. So for Bill Whittle and Stephen Green,
That's right.
I'm Scott Ott. See you this week on Right Angle.